Thank you, Henry, and thank you, Florida Film Festival, Board of Directors, staff, volunteers. Once again, you guys are pulling off an amazing festival, and it's just a complete honor and privilege to be a part of this, so thank you. As Henry mentioned, I am the current president of Women in Film and Television, and actually Katie Waters, who's on our panel, was a past president, and it's a great organization. We'll have a table outside if you want to find out more about it. What's great about Women in Film and Television is we are part of a global network of over 10,000 filmmakers. And if you are a member of the Florida chapter, you actually are part of this amazing community where you can network with people all over the world. So that's one of our key selling points. And we only accept members who have at least 2 years experience in film, television, and digital media. If you do not have that much experience, you can be a friend of Women in Film and join us at our networking events and our educational seminars. So please look us up at womeninfilmfl.org. And you know, we just all had breakfast, and some very interesting conversations came up at breakfast. So I'm kind of hoping that this can become somewhat conversational again. This panel, one thing everybody shares is an extreme passion and love for this industry. And I think without that, honestly, this is not the industry to be in, because you need that. You know, when I did my independent film, I learned firsthand what it's blood, sweat, and tears sometimes, and it's a labor of love to do independent filmmaking. So we have a whole panel here with that in common. And I think the best thing to do is I'll start with Sherry here. And if you could each just kind of introduce yourselves, and this is a time to brag, so we will not judge you as being egomaniacs. We want to hear name dropping and name dropping of projects you've worked on, and just kind of give everybody in the audience an opportunity to see a little bit about your background. And actually, you know what, before I have each of you introduce yourselves, I'm just real curious, this audience, how many of you here are filmmakers and actually have a film playing this year in the film festival? We just see a show of hands. Okay, and how many are Florida residents? Oh boy, good. And how many of you are in the entertainment industry as Florida, okay. It's most of you. And how many of you would like to be in the entertainment industry here in Florida, and that's why you're here? Great, okay. So panel, did you see that? All right, Sherry, now if you could introduce yourself, and we'll just keep going down the row. Yes, we do. Yeah, we have to share.
You're smart. Okay. Good morning. Thank you so much for the invite to be here with my friends here on the panel. I'm new to the filmmaking side. I just come from a family of artists with my children and committed to the Florida industry here when they were young, and they worked here in Florida back when the producer building on the back lot of Universal was just a happening place, and it was fun, it was exciting, it was good work, it was SAG work, and we're hoping that that will come back around in a big way here and stay here. From that, I started teaching acting to children and teens here in Central Florida. And from that, the programs of just your basic acting training, I realized that we had some incredibly talented children and teens, organically gifted storytellers. And a lot of them were working, and they needed a place to, as they said, we call it home. So we created a young professional acting group, and we would work 3 hours at a time. They came from all over the state of Florida. A very big commitment for the children and teens and their parents. And out of the initial 12 that helped me found that program, all 12, I took to Los Angeles, and they're all working in the industry professionally. So they're living out their dream. They're very committed. Many of them are on shows that you watch, films that you see. They come back, they're bi-coastal. Some of them still stay here with their parents and travel back and forth. 2 of them are on Bloodline. I don't know if Katie, I gotta tell you that. They play the, and Tig is young Danny, and Samuel J. Dixon is young Kevin on that show. So they are very happy Florida teens now. They've all grown up, so I can't keep up with how old they are. It's amazing. So from there, I went out with them to Los Angeles, helped them launch their careers, and managed them for a year or 2, and then came back and decided to pick up a camera, and I made a documentary that is has traveled the circuit for the past year. I'm done now, and the last hurrah, which I'm so excited about, is it's going to be seen this Sunday at 2:15 as part of the Brouhaha program. It's called Dan Behind His Eyes. So thank you. About a local family, so it was all Florida, and it was a full sale. I could not have made that film without Don Tynes, who's an instructor at Full Sail. He DP'd, he introduced me to students that were top of the class over there, and they joined the project and brought their equipment, brought their hearts, and stuck with it, and we made this little film together, and it was really a lovely experience.
Thanks, Sherry. My name's Ty Arnold. I am a rare Florida native. I've lived all over the state, the bulk of it here in Orlando. I went to Valencia. Any Valencia grads? Any Valencia students? Yeah, that's right. Sadly, we did lose Ralph Clemente recently. I know he had a large impact on probably everybody up here on the panel, and everybody in the audience, so still sad about, still a little broken up about Ralph. He was a huge mentor to a lot of people. I know he meant a lot to the state and the countless number of students and professionals that are working all across the nation in many markets, including Florida. I don't think we'll ever really know the impact he had. Anyway, sorry, that aside. Proud Valencia grad, 2003. In the last 12 years, I've held pretty much every position at some point, working in features and commercials and stuff, as my IMDb will probably tell you. Beyond that, I've been producing commercials and photography for the last 4 or 5 years. I work with local ad agencies and production companies, work with people like Publix and client-wise Publix, Disney, Sonny's Barbecue, stuff like that. So that's me. And I produced Invaders, a short film that's playing in Shorts Block 4. Thank you. Thank you, Lady in the Orange. And, but that's my transition to Jason.
Hi, I'm Jason. I'm also from Florida. I'm from South Florida, from West Palm Beach, where I went to film school down there, and then transitioned up here. I actually moved up here to join a band, and because I broke up with my girlfriend, and I had to get out of South Florida. So I moved to Orlando and started going to Valencia, and also learned a lot from Ralph, and joined a band then called Vostok, and then which eventually became a band called The Pauses, and we're still sort of like kicking around and playing a lot in Orlando and touring, and so ended up doing a lot of music stuff and film stuff, and sort of blended the two, started doing commercial music and film music, which I do for a production company called Deep Studios. So I've done commercial music for Kraft and Disney and Hard Rock and a bunch of other companies that Ty has also worked for. So that's how we met, I think, working on stuff like that, and then had this goofy idea for a short, which we ended up doing for Invaders. So I wrote and directed Invaders. I've had a couple films in the Florida Film Festival in the previous years, a short called Sleuth Incident, and one in Brouhaha years ago called Work Farm. So Invaders is it screened a few days ago at Shorts 4, and it was incredible. And we're excited to screen it again tomorrow. It's got a few Walking Dead folks in it. I'll name drop something. It's Walking Dead folks. That's it.
I'm Lindsay Fuller, well, now Sandra, and I guess I got married. And if any of you are familiar with the local industry here, you might know Florida Film and Tape, Mike Fuller and Brad Fuller. That's my family. I was born in Florida, thank you. They're both Film Florida legends. If you're not familiar with them, they have been in the industry forever. Locally, they work as much as they can, and they'll travel everywhere. But I grew up on film sets, similar to Ty, held essentially every position you can imagine on those sets. Went to college, took a little hiatus from production, moved to advertising for about 5 years, where I learned a different side of production. And now I am currently back in the Film Commission, and I am the Assistant Director of Film and Digital Media there. I'm also a board member at WIFT. And so, yeah, so I'm the person that Ty came to permit for some of his projects. So I do all the permitting for any movies, student films, commercials, TV shows, anything that comes to town. You basically come talk to me or Sheena, who is the film commissioner. She can't be here today. But yeah, that's me in a nutshell.
Hello. My name is John Lux. I'm the Chief Operating Officer at Ideas. I'm originally born and raised in Chicago. Moved to Orlando in 1998 to work in the entertainment industry. I actually started at our company at Ideas as a post-production intern. I was the tape vault guy, and have just kind of moved along the ranks, learning the business to the position I am now. I am also on the executive board of Film Florida, the statewide entertainment production association. I'm the treasurer as well as the head of the marketing committee. As far as the work that we do at Ideas, we work in a couple of different industries, but my personal passion is the entertainment side, so I focus on that. And we've had the opportunity to work on, pretty much most of the television and films that have been, the larger ones that have been in Florida, primarily doing ADR work for them. Some of them, Foley work, some of them mix work. We had the opportunity to work with Kim a couple years ago on To Write Love on Her Arms. We did all the Foley for that. But most recently, ADR work for, Graceland, The Glades, Burn Notice, Bloodline. So we have our hands peripherally in a lot of the things that come. But primarily right now, my role/obsession is the legislative stuff going on in Tallahassee right now. So if you see me looking at my phone, it's because I'm getting texts from people in Tallahassee right now. So that's pretty much me.
My name is Katie Waters. Thank you, Kim. I grew up in Columbia, Missouri, moved to Los Angeles in 1979, where I started work at Columbia Pictures as a PA. I worked on a bunch of movies. The one you probably saw as children, most of you, was the original musical Annie, directed by John Huston with Carol Burnett and Albert Finney. Did that for a few years, then I moved to television, did sitcoms at NBC. I spent some time in business affairs at a literary agency, represented Terry Malick and some other interesting writers. Then I moved here in 1989, and having trained also before I left as a script supervisor in LA, and I've been doing that ever since. Mostly, well, I like to, when people ask me what genre I work in, I tell them I'll do anything but porn and snuff. Because in this market you have to be really versatile. So, I've done commercials and infomercials and series and features, and I've traveled the world doing it. It's been a lot of fun. Most recently, I worked on the series Bloodline for Netflix. We did get picked up for a second season, but it'll probably be next summer before they hit your television. I did serve 3 terms as president of Women in Film in the late 90s, and Governor Bush, after I finished that, Governor Bush appointed me to the Florida Film and Entertainment Advisory Council, where I served 2 terms, a total of 8 years, where we wrote essentially legislation that continues to evolve all these years later, providing incentives. First one was a point of sale tax exemption. If you got a certificate, you could not pay sales tax on your purchases, and that evolved into the tax credit situation that we have now. That was really meaningful volunteer work. And now I'm looking for work, so anybody out there who's making a film that needs a script supervisor, give me a call.
Okay. Well done. Katie works in the most, I think, disruptive part of the industry right now, probably the best in Netflix. If you look at their development slate, it's encouraging for filmmakers across the world, for that matter. My name's Kim Dawson. I started in the film business back in the 70s as well. I worked for a company called Trans World International, which is now IMG Media. We did sports programming, everything from Battle of the Network Stars to Superstars, what we'd call underwear sports. The original reality programming. We made a lot of documentaries about sports and so forth. And my boss moved from TWI over to Showtime in the late 70s. And I got a chance to go to work for Showtime in 1980. And I spent 6 years there as the director of original programming in Los Angeles, and got to work with producers and filmmakers from virtually every part of the industry. It was really exciting and fun. At that point, I became an independent producer, and in 1988, I moved here to produce the Mickey Mouse Club for the Walt Disney Company, Disney Channel. And when I left Los Angeles, I had in my pocket the rights to a bunch of different comic books, one of which was the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, which we finally got made with Golden Harvest and New Line in the late 80s, and then early 90s rather. And then I just stayed in Orlando. We produced a variety of television shows down at Universal, not so much at Disney because they sort of abandoned the genre, if you will. But we made The News, which was a groundbreaking sort of Saturday Night Live television series in the mid-90s. And then I stayed in film. We made a movie about Bobby Jones and up in Georgia. And then we formed a company in the mid-90s, or mid-2000s rather, around 2006 and 7, when the economy was going south, and called Possibility Pictures. We made a movie called Letters to God here in Orlando, and then followed that up with a movie called To Write Love on Her Arms, originally Renee, which premiered here, I think it was 4 years ago, if I'm not mistaken. It seems incredible that it could have been that long ago. Maybe it was 3. But regardless, it was well received here by the festival, and it was our premiere. That movie just finally released by Sony Pictures. It was one of the films that got hacked back in November. So we're anxious to see how it does in VOD and DVD after a very small release. We had originally envisioned a big theatrical widescreen release, but I think we got about 20 screens altogether. Sony pulled back their plans after that hack, but that's the nature of our business, I guess. I refer to myself as being in constant, either somewhere between development hell or development heaven, because I get to do what I love to do, which is develop and produce content. But a lot of it seems like you're always fighting a battle. And if John gets this legislation passed, it may make things easier for us in the next in the coming months. But regardless, as a film community, I think it's our responsibility overall to try and find solutions to bringing production here, keeping production here, because we do have great crews, we have amazing facilities, and really a supportive community. When we did the To Write Love in Our Arms picture, we had Valencia College. We had 43 students from that. We had their equipment and staff as well as their students. We also used Full Sail's facilities. We mixed it Full Sail. We used some editing equipment of theirs. We had UCF students who participated in the casting and then in the production as well. And we also did a lot of our post-production, the CGI work at Dave's school. So we benefited in an amazing way for that picture. I would guess that the bottom line, probably saved us 7 figures over time that contributed to the look of the picture. So I'm a big advocate of these of the students and the school programs that are here, and I just hope that we can create more jobs for all of those graduates.
Thank you all. You know, a couple years ago, the Economic Development Commission came up with this, what I consider brilliant campaign, which was #WhyOrlando. And I was thinking, why don't we broaden it a little bit more and think of #WhyFlorida? A lot of people, I've been back here, I was in LA until 1990, and I've been back here for 25 years. And I know, how can that be when I'm only 25 years old? But I'm really curious to hear from each of you, what keeps you here? You know, if you were in Los Angeles, you know, I know Katie we were talking about earthquakes are certainly a motivator to stay here in Florida. But just, you know, if you could let us know why Orlando, why Miami, why Florida? You know, why are you committed to this state? So if anybody wants to jump in and start, and then we'll just kind of popcorn this. So if you feel compelled, feel free to jump in.
I'll start.
Okay.
In 1989, I was getting sick of LA. My mentors were retiring or dying, and there were strikes constantly, and so I was over it and looking to get out. And I had some family in Florida. My parents had a retirement situation that they'd set up for themselves in Palm Beach County. And Newsweek magazine in January of 1989 had an article about the 10 most livable cities in America, and Orlando was on that list. And I'd been to Disney World once, and that was the sum total of my my experience here. But Universal was getting ready to open, and Disney had just opened, and I took a red eye on a Thursday night, had interviews on Friday. People said, oh my gosh, when can you get here? When can you get here? We need you, we need you, we need you. On Saturday, I bought a house. And on Sunday, I went home and put my home on the market. And by May, I was here, and there were no jobs for me. But that's how I got here. Fortunately, I did end up working, but that's how I ended up here.
I'll go. Why I stay in Florida? Well, when I moved here, actually April 20th will be 17 years from my first day at Ideas. And what keeps me here is partially laziness, but also I'm a true believer in, you know, the grass isn't greener on the other side. I mean, my job at Ideas has allowed me to grow from literally the tape vault guy to the chief operating officer. And my boss is smart enough to know that I get bored easily and gives me new responsibilities and new tasks about every 6 months to a year just to keep me fresh. But I stay here because it's a great place to raise my family. I do miss Chicago greatly, not as so much in the winter, but I miss my family, I miss my friends, I miss the summers in Chicago. But I believe in what we as a state are doing to grow. I look at the culture and the arts here in Florida, and yeah, it doesn't compare to Chicago or New York or LA, but you can see the path that it's taking, and I'm proud of that, and I take great pride in you know, doing a tiny little sliver of helping that. But I stay here because I see the future and I see the potential, and you know, hopefully we can achieve that potential. And it doesn't happen overnight. I mean, I've been here 17 years, and I was excited when we could do pay at the pump in Florida. So, I mean, it certainly doesn't happen overnight. It takes time and it takes hard work, and it's not going to be easy. But you know, it makes it that much better once we achieve what we want to be.
Ditto.
I would say that the film programs in this state are, they are fantastic, and there's the open door and the collaboration. Ralph Clemente being one, great that we've just lost, but what a legacy and example he has set for us. But Full Sail, Valencia and UCF right here, FSU, film schools down south. I think it's really important for those of you who are filmmakers, if you can expand, even going into some other markets, if you get an opportunity to go to LA and work, make relationships, in making Florida your base, it really helps to be able to have that collaboration across the country as well, and to bring those relationships forward and bringing them to Florida to work on projects with you. It really is about relationships always, and so I would say Florida, especially now with Bloodline, some of the shows we've had, but Bloodline more than anything with the new media of Netflix, is a game changer. I think there are a lot of people who are realizing locations, crew, passion, qualified people are here. People are willing to step up and take meetings very easily and quickly. You can get those in other markets, but they may take time, and again, building relationships. And when you have your film commissioners who are so willing to support, do what they can, be a phone call away, when your crew is, right there for you, what do you need, how can we pull this together? Florida is, it's very unique in that way. We have great locations, beautiful sunsets, hard summers, and so you have to prepare for that market downside. As you're working, the hurricanes, you have to work with that. But again, you have such great people who are giving you advice and guidance and available to you to kind of see how to navigate all of that. So I wouldn't say, like going to LA is if you are wanting to make feature films, wanting to produce television shows, I think it's important to have, or New York, to have those relationships, but definitely bring them back here, and I think they'll be really excited to work here.
To kind of piggyback off what you said, I think Florida, and Central Florida specifically, has a really unique and advantageous sort of kind of specter in the market where we're big enough that we have all the resources and all the crew that you would want, but we're still kind of small enough that you can reach out directly to people at the Film Commission and colleges and people like that, and you can have a more direct line to the people who are involved in actually making it happen. But we have all the resources here and over Florida that you can get anywhere else. But you really have more of a personal, I wouldn't say small, but a more direct contact to the people who are going to help you make things happen. And because it's sort of a smaller market, you know those people personally. You're on panels with them. You see them at events. So I think that's really advantageous to Central Florida, but Florida in general. And I mean, I've shot all over the United States, Chicago, New York, LA, lots of small towns. I'll take the Pepsi challenge on a Florida crew. I mean, really, I will stack up our people against anybody else. So it's a great place to be, and I'll probably stay forever.
Good for you. Yeah, I think in the context of today's world, where virtually everything is virtual, where we can live anywhere we want, that Florida's lifestyle is probably much better, except for South Florida, where the traffic mimics Atlanta and Los Angeles at times. But we don't know traffic in Orlando like they do out west and in places like Atlanta and New York. So there's a big lifestyle difference that really is appealing to me. I know, having moved here in the late 80s, I've seen a lot of change, but at the same time, I think it's still as friendly a place as it ever was, both in terms of crew and business environments and that sort of thing. What we lack is some infrastructure that we need to build over time, and the time is now. Ultimately, we could use some agency presence or some more talent representation to the extent that we have a great talent base here, and I just don't think it gets recognized enough as that's true of both in front of the camera and behind the camera. But there's also a big issue with regard to finance. If you look at the model of what makes successful productions, and you say, okay, we got great intellectual property, we've got great stories here. There's no doubt. There's so much great writing talent, directorial talent. I have no question that we have material that competes with the rest of the world. We have, now that distribution is through places like Netflix, the .com has opened up the world to virtually everybody. I mean, Henry was saying it earlier, that there's really no barrier to entry in terms of getting your content distributed. There is a marketing issue, and that relates to money. And it all ultimately comes back to money. We have great talent, great crews, all of that. So what's missing is ultimately finance. And for any of you guys like Anthony, the MBA, who's an intern at the Film Commission, figuring out how hedge funds work and bringing that money to Florida so that it becomes a sensible investment rather than just an angel investment is probably the biggest hurdle we face. And if we can figure that out, then and there are a lot of great minds, financial minds, all over the state. And paired with a legislature that finally sees the light, or re-sees the light, I should say, with regard to the incentive, then perhaps those things will all meld. I know recently a friend of mine was up in Atlanta scouting, and he was trying to find a crew, and he was like 4th or 5th on the list, and there simply wasn't crew for him. Even though they have this robust film incentive program, that's not something I've ever experienced here. Whenever I went looking for crew or cast members, we found people who were well suited for the job.
I would just say, from my perspective, doing a lot more sort of like the stuff that we've done is a lot more independent sort of projects, and what I found consistently being in Florida, moving to Florida and being dropped into the Valencia program, which was like just being dumped into the deep end immediately. So coming from South Florida, learning at film school, there was just, you were in a vacuum of learning. You were just doing your own little projects and stuff, and you came here and were just like dumped into like a real film project, and it was terrifying. But at the same time, it's just like you have to learn immediately how to swim and what you're doing. And there's just constant work going on here. So it's like you got to find a position, you got to find how you work in that position, and you got to find immediate allies, which is the best part of Valencia, I think, was going there and finding a community of people who are just passionate about film and want to make stuff, and regardless of what the end result is, a lot of people just want to make things. So that was the best thing that happened to me moving to Orlando and starting film is just the circle of friends that I've made and the insanely talented people that I get to work with and who care and support the projects that you're doing, and sticking with those people and helping those people when they need help. And so we've worked, at least more recently, more independent sort of projects and people donating time and like finding people who can do that. And so when work is steady, people need to take those jobs, and they can't always be on your project or whatever. So it's like, but the amount of support and just donated time and effort that people put in here and that just care about projects is just insane. And that's why I can't even imagine leaving anytime soon. I would just be like lost without the people that I've at least found to be supportive and are amazing in Florida.
I guess I'll jump in really quickly, bring it back to Melanie's #WhyOrlando. The EDC's new slogan, I guess, is "You don't know the half of it." That applies not only to their business development side, but it really also applies to the film side. A lot of people do associate Central Florida simply with the theme parks and palm trees. And a lot of people don't know palm trees are not native to Central Florida. They actually don't grow naturally. If you see one, it was planted there. So a lot of people come here to film for Anywhere USA. And I'm speaking the 4-county region that my office covers, which is Lake, Osceola, Orange, and Seminole counties. Within our region, we have duplicated 6 of the 7 continents. I guess you could go Antarctica if you went to SeaWorld's penguin exhibit or something like that. But you can really film almost any project here. I know there was one Vietnam in the swamps. There's Texas with the farmland, especially out in Lake County. I mean, really, you dream it and we have it, essentially. So that also is a big point that we in the film office try and get across to people, is that we're not necessarily all tourism based. We do have anything you could want in terms of crew, in terms of locations, and people really don't know the half of it. So
I'll definitely say that, jumping on that point, like when we were making our short film, like one of the key points for it was that I really wanted it to look northern and not have a Florida feel specifically. More of a vague nothing feel. It's just a more northern feel. And I was kind of terrified of what we'd be able to find. And we immediately, just like within an hour or two, found these amazing houses up past downtown, just like a colonial sort of look. And the same thing is that we're shooting a series of music videos, and I kind of wanted to have a vague nowhere kind of look, and we've just found a million locations that just like could be anywhere. It doesn't, there's not a Florida vibe to, you can get a Florida vibe really easily, but you can get an anywhere vibe just as easily. We're shooting up in caverns and Mariana. It's like crazy underground caverns. It's like, I didn't even know exist in Florida. It's just like the more you search and find things, we had wheat fields, like just anything that could translate to be anywhere USA, which is here, which is surprising to me. The more I've lived here forever, and I only know South Florida, so I know a lot of palm trees and beaches. And then just searching out and doing location scouting, it's insane the amount of variety that you can find.
Yeah, and I was actually lucky enough to produce that EDC You Don't Know the Half of It campaign. And for weeks, we just looked around, the 4 counties that Lindsay mentioned. And I found so many crazy things and saw so many things that I never even knew were right in our own backyard. Like Randall Knives is this like boutique company off like OBT. There's like a little sign on OBT that says like Randall Knives. You would never go back there. Then you go back and it's like 20 artisans like handcrafting every bit of a knife. And there's a 5-year waiting period. Like just weird stuff like that. Like we got to go inside Boeing and JetBlue and like all these absolutely amazing, unique locations and things that exist in Central Florida that I never knew existed, and I've lived here 20 years almost. So beyond like the locations and stuff, like there are just interesting, unique things in the backyard that you would never know existed that could be utilized for film and television.
About crew. Oftentimes directors come here kicking and screaming because of things that the producers find important. They want to shoot it somewhere more glamorous. And by the end of the project, universally, they're totally blown away by what they found here, by the quality of the crew. I mean, and they verbalize this to us. They'll tell us, I didn't want to be here, but I'm so glad we came here, because there's amongst the crew, it's not, especially when you're dealing with union projects, in LA especially, everything, this is my job, that is your job. If the cable is in my way, I'm not going to move it, I'm going to wait until the proper utility person comes to move the cable. I mean, the rules are really strict in LA and New York, and there's a much more collaborative vibe on sets in Florida. Not that anybody's usurping anybody else's job, but it's more collaborative. And because of that, there's a much nicer feel, I think, on sets, because I've worked on sets all over the place with people from everywhere. And so people really, directors, producers really appreciate the attitudes of the crews. And we all know that when, producers are nice, crew people will bend over backwards to do everything. And for instance, From the Earth to the Moon shot here years ago, HBO on the Cape, about the Apollo program. And it was produced by Tom Hanks and kept a lot of people working for close to a year, I think. Mm-hmm. And when Tom Hanks picked up his Emmy for Best Miniseries, one of the things he said in his speech was, "Thank you to the best crew I've ever worked with." So, I think that says a lot about us.
You know, we've talked about how being a part of this industry is somewhat like riding a roller coaster. I'm curious, how do you guys maintain a positive attitude, and, you know, how do you handle that a lot of people feel like, I mean, they're shocked that there's the talent here, there are such diverse locations and opportunities and such quality people. How do you stay strong and focus on the positive and stay in the solution and you know, not just say, forget it, I'm just gonna get into something totally different and abandon this industry? Is there something that you do to just stay positive and to trust that the work will come?
If you've got an answer, I'd love to hear it.
Well, I can, just speaking from permitting and the logistical and paperwork side of things, I can pretty much tell you that when the rest of the country was in snowpocalypse, they all wanted to come down here. So we had a huge influx of, every year we do, of commercials and productions that literally cannot film anywhere else, essentially but here in California, and a lot of people come here instead. So that commercial season here in the spring is always busy. I know the majority of the crew, the location managers and scouts, everybody is pretty busy that time of year. So, I mean, that's definitely a good thing for us in terms of that. We have something that no one else has, green grass in the wintertime.
Good point.
Yeah, To Write Love on Our Arms was a great case study in the collaboration that Katie was talking about. When we started that film, we wanted to use students, but the union rules sort of forbid anybody from actually picking up equipment and operating a camera or moving a light or whatever. But in working with the union guys, we figured out a methodology, and what we did is we brought all the department heads into a room with all the prospective students, and they sort of divided up and looked at the various jobs, and then the department heads were able to kind of select their teams of students, and they did a safety training course in lighting a grip or art direction or whatever, and along the way they found these new relationships. I think a lot of those young people that worked on the project actually ended up working in the industry and getting jobs because they were mentored by these people who had a lot of experience, and that sort of spirit of cooperation is what holds true, I think, in every instance. It's one of the most positive experiences I've ever had in filmmaking, because it empowered young people to actually get their hands on equipment and be part of the filmmaking process and really contribute overall. And that was, I think it showed on the screen as well. So.
Yeah, I mean, to your point, I graduated Valencia, and 2 weeks after I graduated, I got a call to assistant coordinate a movie in Maryland because somebody who had come to Valencia to do a feature, I just recognized that we liked working together, and that was it. So 2 weeks after graduation, I quit my job at Starbucks, and that was it. I mean, I've been doing it ever since. So Valencia definitely has a unique proposition amongst film schools because you work with local and out-of-town key people that they bring in. So you don't graduate and you don't just know like the 20 people in my directing or producing track. Nothing wrong with that, but you graduate like having actually worked on features and music videos and other projects, and you know key people and seconds and people that are actually going to hire you and give you a job. So it's a really quick way to get your foot in the door and know people. You graduate and you have prospective people that are going to pay you to do work in the industry. So.
Yeah, I had a similar experience where I right out of Valencia got paired up with a sound designer, Richard Aker, who I worked with through Valencia. I got to work on a feature doing Foley work and ADR and everything, and then just immediately from there ended up he helped build an audio studio suite that we have at our production company, and I've just been doing that ever since. So it was an immediate transition right out of Valencia to doing that. Yeah, so, but at the same time, like staying positive, it's like being a freelance composer and sound designer is where I try to make money. There are definite periods of drought being freelance anything, and you just have to kind of like stick it through and keep finding stuff. I hope that I've definitely had periods where it's been like trying and kind of scary, and you think, well, okay, well, I got to give this up and move somewhere else, and then eventually something else will come along. But the most difficult thing for me that I can admit to is even just like selling myself or like trying to get myself out there to get work and like try to promote myself or like put together a reel or like show people anything. But luckily, again, that same circle of friends I've had, and eventually someone comes along and it's like, hey, I have this thing, and like you get lucky enough to kind of string yourself along. So I haven't had that experience where I've been like, I gotta get out of Florida, I gotta find something else. But yeah, it's like work comes and goes. I think it would be the same anywhere. And one of the great things, especially if you're in post-production, is it doesn't matter where you live. You could live in Florida, you could live anywhere and do work remotely. So if you're doing sound design, you're doing composing, you're doing anything like that, it's like work comes from everywhere. So unless you're doing field production work, then you have to worry about where you actually live. But
well, as far as like staying positive, I mean, pardon my French, but this is the weirdest fucking job you could ever have. It's completely strange. You go into places you would never see, you do things other people would never get to do, and it's weird. It is like running away with the circus. Like, it is. Like, that's the best, like, John Anderson of Valencia said that in, like, the opening, like, intro to film class, and it was very true. Like, it's a really, really weird job that changes constantly. If you need, like, a stable 9-to-5 thing, it's definitely not gonna be for you. But if you enjoy a constant change in what you're doing, who you're working with, stuff like that, it can be awesome and amazing and scary and depressing and exciting and just, like, everything that makes life interesting and awesome and weird and terrible at the same time.
Well said.
I would like to, I come from a different angle. I've supported some of these projects by training the talent, children and teens. And I would say from that, there's a lot of inspiration when you come across true organic talent, just as if you were to have a prodigy musician child that you know should be studying at Juilliard way before it's his or her time. I've actually met those children and teens and their parents, and the commitment that they have to the art and craft, and it's very inspiring. It's not about making celebrities and stars. It's about the art. It's about the craft. It's about the people. It's about walking into a room and really meeting a casting director that has a story they want told. And that's an exciting moment for them. They know that they have earned the right to be in that room and that they have something unique to bring. And so that's been just a huge part of my commitment and inspiration. And I hear from these kids and teens quite often, and they come back around looking for, master classes and workshops. So that is a big part of it. And the second part of it for me here in Central Florida is where we're sitting today. This art house fills my soul, and the people in it, absolutely incredible people. I just started filmmaking, and with my documentary, we were going full speed ahead in 2012, and so this is my first rodeo, and on this side of it. And I've been sharing with my family, and this is how I think, because you know what? I'm getting older, and I know that time on earth is a very short period of time, and I said, if something were to happen to me, this is true, we just had this conversation, if something were to happen to me, I want to tell my family and my friends, I've had the time of my life this past year. And it's because of a lot of the people here who are so supportive. They bring us these independent films. They bring us the Florida Film Festival, the Q&A, all the people who come in to be here and collaborate and to encourage and share stories. Where would we be without each other here? And I thank them for also embracing the growth and seeing the need here. And I'm just going to go ahead and make an announcement. Holly, I hope I can. But we're going to start an acting program here for children and teens that will be sponsored by the Enzion Theater. And how exciting is that? To bring young people from all over the state who want to come here, train, meet, see these films, have master classes with people from all over the country, be ready for producers and directors who come here looking for talent. That to me is like what gets me up every day. And I've never met a more, and I've been in Los Angeles. I had a fabulous time out there. Those relationships, like I said, I've brought forward here. And I'm not leaving. You know, I love it here. And I think that we have a unique situation. We need to support each other through this community. And we're doing great.
Okay, we wanted to leave plenty of time to have you guys, you know, if you have any questions for any of these panelists. I think all the panelists really could be keynote speakers. They all have such interesting stories and such vast history. As I think we have 2 mics set up to do the Q&A, but as you guys are queuing up to ask your questions, John or Lindsay, can you guys just kind of give us a brief overview of where we're at with these tax incentives? Because that's really a hot topic right now. And John, if you've gotten any text messages with updates, please let us know.
Okay, so quick recap of where things have gotten to this point, and a quick legislative lesson. We have a House sponsor and we have a Senate sponsor. They work together. Each of their bills have to get through 3 committees before they get to the House floor or the Senate floor for a full vote. The House bill has gotten through all 3 committees and is currently on the House floor for a vote. The Senate bill has gotten through 2 committees. We're expecting it to be in the 3rd one next week, and we feel pretty positive that it's going to get through that committee as well. So then it will go to the Senate floor for a vote. The House bill is supposed to be debated and voted on today, although according to my text messages, it may or may not actually be voted on today, which is not a bad thing. It's not unexpected. It's just how the process works sometimes. As far as where we're at right now on the bills, they are a little bit different, which is not unusual. They'll go through kind of a negotiation period if they get through the House and the Senate floor. There still is not money associated with either of the bills, and that has been on purpose to get the language be the focus as opposed to the number. At a certain point, the number will be added, and frankly, it doesn't really matter what we think is the right number. It matters what the legislators feel is a reasonable number for their budget. So there's been numbers thrown out everywhere from us in the industry, anywhere from 25 million a year to 200 million a year, and there's really no reason to get caught up in the number because it's more about the budget for them than it is for what we think. Things are going pretty positively. I mean, ultimately, how successful it is in the end will be judged by the number, by most people. But the truth of the matter is that the existing program that has no tax credits left will benefit 342 projects before it's all said and done, which is a huge amount of projects. But the reality of there's thousands of projects that go on in the state of Florida every year with or without an incentive program. The incentive program obviously brings some of the higher profile and some of the bigger budgets, but the notion that if a bill isn't passed and we don't have an incentive program, that the industry in Florida is dead is just false, because it's not true. Will it be less? Sure. Will there be less high profile stuff? Sure. No one's going to argue that. Going back to staying positive, I mean, I've had to stay positive with this over the last almost 2 years. Otherwise, I would have gone crazy. But the truth of the matter is, Florida, we had an industry before there was an incentive program. We have one now. There will be one beyond that. Obviously, it will be better if we have the tax credit program. And that's obviously what we're fighting for as hard as we possibly can. But my message is stay positive. If you want to contact legislators, even still, when you get out today, absolutely do so. Stay positive, stay professional, and we hope for the best. But I mean, I'm very, regardless of what happens, I'm very proud of the effort that the entire industry has put forth this year. It's been unbelievably positive. The engagement level, I mean, we get comments from our friends at the Florida Chamber who are helping us saying they've never seen numbers like we have as far as legislative emails and phone calls and social media and all. They've never seen numbers like that on any issue. So we just have, yes. So, I mean, I'm very proud of the effort that we've put forth. At a certain point, it's out of our control. We can only control so much, and everything we can possibly control, we're doing. But in the end, there are powers greater than us that will decide if a bill is passed, and if so, what number is in it.
Yeah, Film Florida's done an amazing job this year getting the Chamber and Visit Florida and all these other organizations to support the bill. If you're not a friend of Film Florida on Facebook, you should be, because as these votes come up, they're putting out information on their Facebook page, and sending a letter is easy. The first time you go to the Chamber, Film Florida links to a Chamber of Commerce site, and literally you type in your name, your zip code, and one other thing, I can't even remember what it is. And after that, it's just a matter of hitting send. You just go to that site. It's that easy. They take care, their website takes care of addressing them, signing them for you. If you want to write something personal in it, add to the message, you can, but it's very easy. So if you're not doing that, please go to Film Florida and friend Film Florida on Facebook.
Also, they have free stickers.
That's true.
Right. Yeah, I should have brought them today, sorry.
There you go.
Jen's got them.
Yeah, and a lot of people ask, what can you do? Is there anything you can do? And please, that Film Florida site, they really could not have made it easier. So please go on that, and I mean, just a few clicks, and it will make a difference. Are people ready to ask questions? Looks like Casper the Friendly Ghost is up there. If you are somewhat intimidated about asking a question, we will be meeting afterwards. So you're welcome to stay. I think everybody's kind of gravitating to the Eden Bar. So you can ask any of our panel questions directly. Oh, I see. Yay.
I have a question. Peter Gordon, I teach in the Film MFA program at Full Sail. Hey, Kim, how you doing? We have a lot of young people that are graduating, and if they didn't happen to work with somebody who maybe was going to hire them, are there places they can go to meet people in the industry here in Central Florida? Are there events you go to that they could meet other people? I'm talking about outside of working on sets. Where do you guys hang out? So we can tell them to go find you.
I'm going to plug Women in Film and Television quickly.
Exactly.
Oh yes, quarterly meeting is on April 29th at the Melrose Center. So, and panel, do you want to answer that?
I was just going to throw that out there.
Good job, Lindsay.
Friend Women in Film FL.
Hang around CD bars? I don't know.
We do have a production directory on our Film Commission website as well that lists, just for any filmmakers, anyone in general, it lists crew in the area as well as support services in the area. And a lot of the times, if I'm not aware of any open internships, I'll just tell kids to go kind of stalk our production directory and just reach out. There's no harm in cold calling people. I did it. It worked out for me. And sometimes that's honestly where you get some of the best connections, is just reaching out, grasping at straws, and eventually you're going to find one.
I would say also this. I would say
Yeah.
the Florida Film Festival, any of like the Film Slam stuff, any stuff Enzion's doing, Brouhaha stuff, just like go to that stuff, talk to people. It's intimidating at Q&As to like, you're in a room full of people, is like afterward, like go to Eden Bar, talk to those people, meet them. If you have things you're working on that you're excited about, they might be interested in it. You could at least tell them about it. You'll probably tell a lot of people who won't care, but eventually somebody will care, check out your stuff. It's like, just meet people and talk to people. And then like film events in Florida, this is probably the biggest one.
And the Florida State Film and Television Office, they have a great website as well in a directory. So I think it's filminflorida. It's either com or org. Com. Okay, so check that out too. They also list events all over the state. Yes.
Yes, I'm Dr. Pam Powell. I'm a veteran television and radio talk show host. I've worked on different networks as a host, and I lived in California for a few years. My daughter took ill, I had to move back here, but I'm having a hard time in terms of finding agents that work with you here in terms of television promoting. Most of the agencies in LA, they were boutique agencies, and I could go and they'd take me by networks and get a few jobs or whatever, even if they were temporary. But here in the Orlando area, it's hard to find someone, unless I'm not aware of them, that works directly with television. And in LA, to get to the big three agencies, you got to say you refer about Oprah or some great leader just to get in that door. And so I'm trying to determine, in terms of the networking, who all would be recommended for that, or do you have to still go outside of this area, Florida, to find a good agent?
Are you talking about broadcast television?
I've operated as a talk show host
Okay.
on a few networks, and one of them changed to a reality type network, and the other one changed to a music network. So I'm really wanting to get back in. I do guest hosting on some sets and networks, but right now I'm trying to find an agent here. I've been talking to different agencies, and they mostly produce talent for movies and things of that nature, nothing in television talk.
Yeah, that's outside my
Okay,
wheelhouse,
thank you
I'm
very
sorry.
much.
Yeah, maybe Miami might have some resources. That's a shot in the dark, but I wouldn't say anything in Central Florida that I know of.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. Hi, Art.
Hello, I'm Art Smith. I'm on the board of Women in Film. I know it sounds strange, but every third meeting I have to wear a dress. I want to go back to answer the instructor from Full Sail. One of the things that's neat about Women in Film is we have WIF Wednesdays, and we've also opened up branches, not just in Orlando, but in Tampa, St. Pete, Jacksonville, Daytona Beach, Miami, and South Florida. And each of those branches now are conducting what we call the WIF Wednesdays. So it's sort of like a get-together, and we meet and we talk about these problems with people and positions and jobs and what can you do. Also within Women in Film is a scholarship that's available to Women in Film members that will help support a project. You've got to be a Women in Film member, but the scholarship is coming up, and it's on the website. So there's money available. And there's also things that we put out that tell you about other parts of the industry within Florida on our webpage. So check out our webpage and try to come to our WIF Wednesday meetings, even if you're not in Orlando, you know, the ones that are out throughout the state. Thank you.
Thank you, Art.
Yeah, Peter, to your point, I think I saw an interview on television the other night with Brian Grazer and Charlie Rose. I don't know if any of you guys saw it, but it was a fascinating interview. Brian was promoting his new book, but as the head of Imagine Pictures and Imagine Entertainment, he's created a lot of television. But the one thing he's done since he first got into the business after he graduated film school at USC was he never let an artificial barrier keep him from meeting somebody. And what he learned over the course of time, at least according to this interview, was that he had to fine-tune his pitch to a few words or a few sentences so that when he was trying to meet somebody, he knew exactly what it was that he was trying to accomplish with that specific person. But the book is about all the various experiences he's had over the years. He was talking about a meeting that took him 2 years to get with Floyd Merriweather. But the purpose of the book was kind of to describe what it takes to break down those barriers and take a meeting with somebody that you wouldn't otherwise have access to, but just by being bold. So to that end, I don't know exactly where people hang out in this town, because I don't. I'm a grandfather for the first time, so that's sort of limited my social life. What?
Not hanging too much?
I'm not hanging too much, but there's a point, and I'd recommend the book if you Google it. It's probably a good object lesson.
Thanks, Kim. Now, I'm sorry, have you been standing there for a while? Because I've been kind of...
He has as well.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, yeah, my name is Tom Fermi, and I'm a budding filmmaker. And my question is, are there any tips how to get films into film festivals? Does bribery work?
Yeah, for sure.
I brought chocolate last time, but it didn't work.
Are you talking
in-
shorts or feature?
Yeah, I'm specifically talking live action short.
We just, Don Tynes just did a workshop here that the NZN sponsored on short films, and a big section of that was on submissions to film festivals. I think that, I'll just say a couple things that I know are important. The time of your short, there's a sweet spot of like 8 to 10, 12 minutes, nothing over 20, if possible. Your success rate of getting in for something that's over 20 minutes can go to like a 1% chance, because if you're getting into a half an hour short, you're taking away the possibility of 3-4 other filmmakers having a slot. And if you do go over that, I think, and some of the programmers are here for the shorts that did such a great job this year. Tim Anderson's here, and he could speak with you about that if he wants to. I think
he actually raised his hand. He did it.
I think it's really important that you know your market as far as the timing of it, and also the marketing of it, and don't be afraid of just the little grassroots film festivals. You don't have to go into the major markets. There's a lot, just like in in a little town that throws everything behind their film festival. That is a great learning ground for you as a filmmaker. You meet other filmmakers there. Everyone's got a real passion, and you get a lot of support. You get a lot of information. You make contacts. Those are some of the most delicious festivals that I've been to, and they've really brought me forward to know. I've learned something at every single one, and I have contacts now across the United States. So those little grassroots, things that you think, oh, I've never heard of it. Well, research it and find out more, and submit to those. Some of them are even free. I submitted to the American Psychological Association with my documentary. Cost me nothing. I didn't think they even opened it and looked at it because it kept on, without a box, it kept saying a little red dot that didn't show it progressing. I sent one email a week before the cutoff, just to say, if you have a problem, I'm not sure if you can't open it, if you didn't receive it, I can, communicate. Stepped away, found out that not only did it get in, but it won an award from the American Psychological Association, and it was used at their national convention this past summer for a topic with the PhDs on extraordinary child-parent relationships. And that was a free submission, just kind of a little niche. So, that's a documentary. But I'm saying in your shorts, find your niches, and especially locations, if you shot it in a certain place where people would really appreciate that you shot there using, their backdrop.
I would say to that same end, go to all shorts programs, watch shorts for, and watch all the stuff that works, see what's working in the same. There's definitely a sweet spot of stuff. It's like if it gets too pacey, you're gonna have a hard time getting in because you are gonna eat up other filmmakers' slots. And even if it's an amazing movie, it'll find some fests, but it'll have a harder time. But for a short, finding the right time length to tell your story, and then research every festival and see what kind of stuff they're taking, if they're taking the kind of stuff you're making. If not, it's just a waste of money. And being incredibly strategic too. It's if you're just wanting to hit, you just can't send it out to 1 million festivals in every town, because then you're going to oversaturate. Most places aren't going to want to play you then. And it's just, there's a lot of strategy involved. Go to Film Freeway is amazing. There's Without a Box, which has been around forever, and it's kind of getting a little bit difficult to navigate as far as they're starting. I think they're trying to now ape what Film Freeway does, which is a way better user-friendly sort of interface for filmmakers and film festivals. But you upload your short, you have an entire page that looks like an IMDb page. They have all your reviews. You can see everything there, and there's tons of free fests. But it's definitely just being smart about where you send first, and not, and definitely hitting up if you filmed in a specific place, or if there are specific elements to your short that make sense to play at a certain festival, then definitely hit those first, and they'll take you in. And then the more you play, the more exposure you get with reviews or whatever. Hopefully, other people will come to you for your short, and you won't have to spend so much submitting because it gets really expensive.
Yeah, be selective about who gets your world premiere,
Yeah.
because that's number one, and there are a lot of festivals that look to other festivals to program. I was trying to see if Matthew's in here, because he would be great to answer. Henry, maybe talk a teeny bit about brouhaha, because that could be another way in. But with the light in my eyes, I can't see if Matthew's in here. Nope, I'm seeing no's. Okay, well, Matthew is an amazing programmer. He's been programming this Florida Film Festival for years, and he would be somebody I would suggest you talk to as well. Question over here, please.
Yeah, hi. I'm Mike. I'm a student at Full Sail. I'm studying creative writing. I had a question based off of something one of you said. I can't remember. I think maybe John. But you mentioned that Orlando has great, talent base and stuff, but we lack the infrastructure. I just wanted to know if you had any opinions on how us aspiring up-and-comers might be able to fill that gap of the infrastructure ourselves, so maybe we lack the agencies that LA has, but something that, the internet can bring us together in a way that official people can. What can we do to fill the gap that infrastructure has left us, if anything?
I think that the truth is that talent rises, and if you've got great material, submitting it wherever, because we don't have agencies here that really champion that. I think that we're lacking literary agencies. We're lacking talent agencies, to Pam's point, and I can't tell you how we're going to fill that gap. I just know that it's a part of the business that's been missing from here for a long time, and really, if we can encourage people as we go through our daily routines to think of both Central Florida and the state of Florida as a place where companies could align themselves, whether it's just through some form of representation. But ultimately, it all gets back to money. If we found, if in your wanderings you find people who have funds, hedge funds or investment funds that they're looking to do. There are some models now where film and television look extremely good compared to what they used to be. It's not as much of a roll of the dice. It's still an angel thing in some regards, but there's actually a financial model that makes sense. So over time, and it's in my mind it's a short period of time. It's somewhere in the next 5 years. We're going to find that, and hopefully, whether it's Miami or Central Florida or even up in Jacksonville or Tampa, there's going to be somebody form a film fund that will be aggressive, and it will help us define ourselves. It may actually arise because of efforts that Enzion is making and what's happening over at the Creative Village, because that business is going to come out of the ground. It's going to start waving a bigger flag over the next few years, and perhaps it'll bring greater attention to us.
Perfect. Thank you.
Sorry, it's probably
no. That's true. It's just a matter of art houses like this getting more recognition. So it's true.
Okay, we have time for 1 or 2 questions at the max. Jen?
Hello. I have a question in regard to social media in terms of marketing your film, whether it be a feature or short or animated. How successful has that been for any of the filmmakers or any of the producers up on the panel? In terms of running a campaign or just getting the word out in general?
Yeah, I think it's essential. I think you have to utilize as much as possible without being ridiculously annoying. There's a thin line of trying to advertise or support a short or a feature and people getting really annoyed with it, and you can see the unlikes that you get, the more annoying you get about it. So our whole thing was crazy social because we started with Indiegogo. We did an Indiegogo campaign, and that's really difficult too, where it's like, how much do I bother people to continue to look at this thing where they don't unfriend us as friends for the rest of our lives. So I lost a couple friends over it. I had some pretty vicious arguments. But in terms of like once the film's finished and then you have to have a Facebook page and a Twitter, and you have to just like keep, if you're promoting your film, if you're gonna do a festival, do something interesting with it and keep it interesting. I think it can get a little stale if you're not, like we're trying to do it, keep it as interesting as possible. I have little action figures that I take to festivals and take pictures with everybody there, or like update the poster every time with something completely ridiculous so that applies to the festival. But yeah, I mean, I think without social media, especially for an independent project that you're doing everything yourself, you have to get it out there as much as possible. And you have to pay the money. Unfortunately, on Facebook, you have to pay to promote everything or nobody sees it. Because their entire system has changed where you can look at the analytics of everything that you post and see that, oh, nobody is seeing this thing. So I have to pay Facebook money every time, which is a bummer, but they've monopolized that.
And it's so important, if you're not a social media person, put money in your budget to hire somebody. Yes, Jen is somebody, I'm somebody. I mean, there are a bunch of us out here. I mean, that's what we do. That's our day job. So, you know, that seemed to me when I had my film to be the area that by the time you get to this stage, you know, where you're in a film festival, a lot of filmmakers are burned out, or they're just like, somebody take it and run with it. And this is such a critical time. I mean, this is when eyeballs are seeing and distributors are watching, and you want to make sure that you put money in that budget for marketing. It's critical. And we have time for one more question.
I will phrase this as a Florida question. Does anybody on the panel have any experience sending scripts from Florida to Netflix? And if so, what department or what person?
Anyone?
And if there's no answer, I have another question.
No, there's a big black hole, you know, that they have a submission process, but it doesn't, it hasn't produced any results for me. The only meetings I've had are directly through actually LA agencies or production companies that are out there that have a personal relationship with someone. You can mitigate that to a certain extent if you go to some of the film markets, because they show up there. And there's a rationale to have your card or your material at hand at the film markets, whether it's here in the U.S. or in other places. But it's hard to break down those barriers. But at the end of the day, they're always looking for new great material. So that's the good side of it.
Do you have an agent?
No.
Yeah, that.
My brother's a lawyer, but
okay. Well,
he doesn't do movies.
That would be good too. But I used to work. In my life in LA, worked at a literary agency, and if it didn't come from a lawyer or an agent, we didn't even open it. We sent it back. I'm sorry to say.
On the negative. Okay.
You're so mean. I know.
Okay, well, thank you. All the panelists have been amazing. We appreciate you giving some of your time and energy. And I just want to remind everybody again, we're going to be moving over to the Eden Bar. So if your question didn't get answered or you want to pick anybody's brain, this would be a perfect time. And thank you all. Thank you so much.